Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll say a quick hello before I introduce some friends on the screen here. I'm Alison Green-Myers. I'm the program director here at the Highlights Foundation, and I'd like to welcome you all to our first HF Gather of 2024. This is the first of many chances we'll have to gather in our Highlights Foundation community to share news, to talk about stories, to talk about creatives. Alex, at some point during one of our HF gathers this year, will just go on a tear about books that she loves more than anything during the year. And of course, we celebrate all the happenings at our organization. If this is the first time you've joined us for an HF Gather, I just want to let you know this is a webinar style gather. So we can't see your video, we can't hear your audio, but we as hosts and panelists can see things that you post in the chat, and we as hosts and panelists can see things that you post in the Q&A feature. So we like looking in both of those spots. And I'll let you know that we'll be opening the chat up publicly once most people get logged on. So in just a few minutes, we'll have the time really tonight to come together as a community. Then we'll share some hellos, and we'll talk about what you're really here to talk about, scholarships at the Highlights Foundation. As I mentioned, there is the Q&A feature. As much as we would love to be able to keep track of questions that you might have in the chat, it's much easier to separate them out into the Q&A feature so that we don't miss any. So if you have a question about a specific scholarship or something about the Highlights Foundation in general, go ahead and put that in the Q&A feature. I'll let you know that a copy of tonight's webinar with closed captioning will be delivered to your inbox in approximately 24 hours. We'll also post a recap of tonight with screenshots and links on our Highlights Foundation blog. So both locations, you'll have that information. I do want to add that in these spaces, whether it's in the chat, whether it's here on Zoom, or if you get a chance to visit us at our retreat center, anywhere we come together as the Highlights Foundation, we ask for your respectful engagement. At the Highlights Foundation, we strive for a safe and inclusive environment. And so we ask you to join us tonight with no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. I really feel that we're privileged to come together again and again as creatives and supporters of children's books, of all children's books. We bring this with mutual care and respect for one another and respect for one another's work. And I think that this is a really special time to center story and to show our respect for creatives who are bringing truly authentic books to kids and to teens. So thank you for being here. Some of you in our audience might know a little bit about the Highlights Foundation in the past. We had solely retreats at our retreat center, which is located in the northeastern Pennsylvania on the traditional lands of the Lenape Nation. Some of you have gotten to know us over the past few years as we've grown our workshops online. Whether you're with us online or at the retreat center, knowing us means getting to know who we are. And I think our mission really does speak to that. We say at the Highlights Foundation that our mission is to impact children by amplifying the voices of storytellers who inform, educate, and inspire children to become their best selves. Love that word, amplify, more than anything. I have to say, when we were working on our mission, we really fought to keep that word in there. It's such an important word. We're amplifying your stories. We're amplifying your voices so that they can reach the world's most important people, our children. And there's a lot of ways that I say we live this mission, and living it really is action. So One action might be in the programs that we offer. One action might be taking a stand if we feel that something's happening to beloved books that belong in kids' hands. And another action is part of tonight's gather, which is offering financial support and assistance to you, the storyteller. So that's what tonight is all about, our scholarship opportunities for 2024. We'll have fellow storytellers who are on the screen share their stories. You won't have to just listen to me all night. We'll have ways for you to connect and learn more about the varying types of scholarships that we have. And really, we're looking for engagement either in applying yourself or in spreading the word, which is so important right now. The scholarship window is open until January 31st. So we have about a week left, and we are really counting on you to apply and to spread the word. If you leave this evening and can think of those two things, we'll feel like we've had a job well done. Here with me tonight to get this important information to you, I have our team members. George Brown, our executive director, is here. Alex Villasante, our program manager, is with us. Emily Rosenthal and Molly Chow are with us, our program assistants. In the chat, I've seen Bobby and Christine and Rona and Kat and Christina, all sorts of people who are part of the Highlights Foundation team. I thank them for being here. Cynthia Norman is with us, offering our ASL support this evening. Thank you, Cynthia. And then, of course, our storytellers probably look familiar to so many of you. We have Camellia Koo here with us, Karol Ruth Silverstein, Shuba, Mohan, and Elyse Arring with us. They've all been involved in one way or another with a scholarship experience. So thank you all for being here to share with us tonight. I'm going to preview the scholarships. That's like the tech part. We'll preview the scholarships and we'll take a look, like, what does it actually mean to go in there? Emily and Molly will probably deposit some links into the chat so that you can click on things. You can, save them for later, or you can walk through them with me when we look at them on the screen. Then we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation with our panelists. Then we'll hear from George Brown. And then I think, Alex, our mission is to get to as many questions. I already see that we have 14 questions in the Q&A. So our mission will be to save enough time to get to those questions in the Q&A if we haven't addressed them already. So let's start where you might start. Perhaps you're coming tonight and saying to yourself, I would really love to apply for a scholarship at the Highlights Foundation. Where should I start? And I'm going to say the very best place to start is on the Highlights Foundation website. The website itself will bring you to our main web page. On that main web page, and on every page right now, we have information about our scholarship period. What I love about this, it gives the application timeline, shows you exactly when you can expect to hear from us about the status of your scholarship, how long it's open, and look, right here we are at the HF Gather webinar. How lucky for us. There is a button here to apply for a scholarship, and all you really need to do is click on that button. As the website opens up, it's going to give you more and more clear guidance and information. It talks about what we have in order to offer in scholarships. It talks about the scholarship criteria. So many people are asking questions about, well, do I qualify? How do I qualify? That information is found on the website. And then it also talks about the varying types of scholarships we have. And the hard part is, if you don't know the Highlights Foundation very well, you might not know all about our various programs. So at the Gather tonight, we'll hear from people who have taken these programs. And if you visit our website, you can click and you can find out more and more about each of the programs. What I love about this page is it will tell you approximately how many scholarships we have reserved for each of these types of programs at the Highlights Foundation. And then as you continue to look, you'll have the opportunity to apply for just one type of scholarship. So if you read about the varying types of scholarships and you say to yourself, I'd really like to visit the Highlights Foundation Retreat Center, I would like to go in person, you would apply for an in-person program scholarship. And the same for all the hot links here. I just want to preview very quickly because then we want to get into a conversation and just show you what the scholarship application looks like. It has all of that great information on the left-hand side that has the criteria restated again. And then on the right-hand side, it has the information that you'll fill in when it comes to the scholarship itself. There are lots of required items, which have the red dot that's next to them. And then it has some optional items that really help us get to know you even better. It also has a series of hot links located here that you can click on at any time, which will redirect you back to our website to give you more information as you're filling out the scholarship application. There's only one spot that I really want to show you. I'm going to scroll very slowly, just so if you need to look away while I'm scrolling like this, feel free to do so. One of the areas last year that we heard from a lot of people that they had difficulty with was coming to what stage in their writing career or illustration career they were in. And so we've given some more information here to help you identify where you might fall on the children's book journey. And again, this is more information for us, but I think this is mainly helpful because these are the definitions that the scholarship committee uses. And so knowing what the scholarship committee is looking at and the definitions that they're using when they're taking a look at your application, I think is really helpful. There's also several places on the application itself where it says, do you have questions right now? And it will provide you with a link to an email so that you can talk to a member of our team if you have questions, or it will provide you a link back to either the frequently asked questions or to that web page. So we're really trying to give you as much information as possible to help you, but reach out if you really have a question. We want as many applications as possible. And so in order to do that, we need you to feel confident and comfortable in submitting that. So that was kind of the tech part. Emily, I'm going to open up the rest of the chat itself. And could you drop the link one more time in there that goes directly to our website and directly to the scholarship page for me? I appreciate that. Thank you. So now I think this will all kind of come together. It'll make more sense because we're going to hear from storytellers who have done this. They've gone through this process. They took a look either last year or the year before at our scholarships and said, yes, I would like to attend a Highlights Foundation program. I would like to apply for a scholarship in order to do so. And now let's start looking at those different types of programs that we have that are possible. Cami, I'd love to start with you because Cami was at one of our programs this summer that I think of as like the core program that we have at the Highlights Foundation. I love all our programs, but the summer camp is kind of our legacy program. It really reminds me of the Chautauqua Institute and the week-long intensive mentorship that Kent Brown created, and then we brought it with us to the barn at Boyd's Mills. And so you were a part of summer camp last year. You selected an in-person scholarship. You attended an in-person retreat, and I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that whole experience.
Yeah, sure. I came across Highlights. I decided randomly to take a writing class, and I took it at the local university, and it was like 2 weeks in and I was hooked, and I wanted to see how else I could keep learning and keep sort of working on writing and stuff. So I looked online and came across highlights, and this was like early January, and they were advertising the scholarships, and I was like, why not? And I hadn't written, I wrote a lot in high school, and I hadn't really written since then, and I hadn't taken a creative writing class since then. So I was like, I had nothing to lose. Why not? It looked, a lot of fun, looked like a lot of fun. Both the online courses and the summer camps. I was like, that sounds actually really awesome, and what I kind of felt like I needed. And I felt like I still needed some structure and some guidance and mentorship, which I really liked, and that sort of sense of community. And so I don't think we had even learned how to format a manuscript, picture book manuscript yet in this intro to writing for children's class that I had taken. And so I had to look up online what people were doing to format. And I just applied, and not thinking I would get anything, because I was like very brand spanking new at this. And I've experienced as a storyteller, as a set and costume designer, but not necessarily as a writer. And I applied as a writer, and I received a general scholarship. And it was very surprising, really awesome. And yeah, the rest is history. So, and I chose the summer camp because, like I was saying, I wanted in person. I didn't want to do any more Zoom things at that point. And kind of to go to a place that was made for this and made for creators, and which is fantastic. And I like the idea of that, and having sort of the hands-on one-to-one experience with mentors and with fellow creators. And yeah, and it changed my life. So when I went, I really, immediately, I felt like these are my people. I can nerd out and talk about picture books all day long. And it's not something I can do with even my closest friends. They sort of get tired of it, or they don't think it's serious. And but in this community, it was fantastic. And what we were reading, what books excited us, illustrators we liked, authors we wrote, what we want to do, the kind of stories we want to write. And it inspired the whole week I was there, and met some really great people. A few people I'm still friends with and still staying in touch with. They've come to visit me. I've gone to visit them. A few of us are in critique groups with each other. And it really, to me, it was like, yes, that's another little, keep going. You belong here. Your stories matter. And it was fantastic. So I can only say good things. And
Well, I'm so happy. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was you happened upon in January, and that happened to coincide with when the scholarship window was opening. That's a story right there. That it all came together. But yeah, the summer camp, I'm so glad you mentioned the mentorship component to it, and the that community feel. I think going on and having people who are invested in your creative life before somebody says. One of the people I'm thinking of was at summer camp, who just won a pretty wonderful award on Monday during the ALA Awards. And people think, it was their debut and it just happened like that. It happened in a moment. Well, it's nice to be with people all along the journey. And I think at retreats like that, you meet people as they're on their journey, and how much they've put into their stories, and where their stories have come from. And I don't know, it's really meaningful. So it was wonderful to be with you this summer, and I look forward to your return. Thank you for sharing with us. And I think other people in the chat were saying that as well. So thank you. I should probably mention this because I know that our marketing team is in the chat right now. Our summer camps are currently listed on the website. We have a summer camp that is in fiction and nonfiction. So it's our summer camp. We're calling it our summer camp for writers. And there's kind of the craft of writing and also business and building community. And then we have our summer camp for illustration, which is a summer camp in lots of different play. There's lots of different mediums that are explored, lots of stories. And in both cases, there is a lot of mentorship. There's a chance to work on your story paired with someone else and to make growth on that. So our summer camps are listed on the website, as are about 90% of our in-person workshops. So if you apply for an in-person workshop, you'll be able to kind of go through and see what offerings we have in 2024. I should note there, our online programs are starting to come onto the website as well. And since we're going to talk a little bit about online, I think it would be great if we would bring Shuba on with us to talk about, the reality of deciding that an online class fits better for you. It's a better fit. And so what did you see? Did you just come upon our website in January and apply, or was it something you were looking for?
So yeah, my situation was a little bit different in that during the pandemic, I started writing, and my book flew out of me. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've written a book. This is so fabulous. And I started sending it out. I did have an editor look at it, and I did go through edits, and I started sending out. And there were many, many rejections. And of course, at that point, I'm like, I'm not really a writer. This was just a fluke. I did it just to show my kids I could do it. And somehow during that whole process, I got bit by the writing bug. And I thought, I really enjoyed this whole process, and I want to learn a little bit more about it. So I did go looking for ways to learn. But at that moment, I thought, after all that rejection, I'm not really a writer. I don't have any training in this specifically. And I thought, I needed to do something to learn more of the specifics. And so I came across the Highlights Foundation Scholarship in my research as to what would be the next step as to how to get some formalized training. And I thought, should I apply? I mean, really, what's the point of applying? Again, I'm not a real writer. They're going to look, even the questions in the application, they kind of scared me a little bit. I was like, oh, people are going to write beautiful prose here, and they're going to word it in a way that just resonates with the people who are reading these scholarship applications. And I thought to myself, well, here's the thing. If I don't get the scholarship, I haven't lost anything. And if I do get the scholarship, I'll actually have a path forward on how to learn more. And so I applied. And one of the hardest things I found was to decide what kind of scholarship to apply for. But at that point, I knew that I wouldn't be able to make an in-person meeting or retreat, even though that was the biggest. I was most attracted to that one. I just knew I couldn't make that happen. And so I figured out that I would do the online. It's like more like putting your toe in the water as opposed to jumping in with your whole body. And so I put my toe in, and I said, I'm going to try an online class and see how this goes. Life was very full at that time. And as everyone knows, you're always busy. There's so many things going on, and you kind of just have to make a choice and prioritize, is this something I wanted to do? So I put in the time, I put in the application, I decided to do the online course as a tester to see how this went. I chose the 6-week novel intensive with Linda Epstein. It was a fabulous experience, but before the class, it was a fabulous experience because everyone that I worked with at Highlights, and I'd never taken a class with Highlights, I'd never had any interaction with Highlights before, were so professional and responsive. And as someone who has a lot of questions, everyone there answered every one of my questions. So that was just the beginning. I was like, which one should I pick? Which class should I choose with my online scholarship? Which one do you think would benefit me more? This is what I meant, blah, 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 blah. But at that time, it was Emily and Molly who were answering most of my emails. And they just gave so much information. It was so helpful that that's how I narrowed down my choices. And I chose the 6-week novel intensive. The experience was superb. Again, I'm going to say, not only because the coursework was so, it taught me so much, and we would have a recorded lecture that we would listen to once a week, and then we would have a Zoom call on a different day during the same week. And that way you got to meet with the other people in the class and with Linda and talk about what the assignment had been for that week, what we had learned from the recording. All of that was incredibly informative. I learned so much. I feel I've grown as a writer tremendously. It was like night and day. And the bonus of that was the person who managed our class, Delia, every week she would send a reminder that would say, this is what you're supposed to do this week. And this is where you have to log in. And I was like, thank goodness, because if I had to go through and find what I was supposed to do this week, or if I had to log in myself to figure it out, I'm not so sure that I would have actually benefited as much. But her reminder on a regular basis, this is what you got to do. Click here for this. On Thursday, click here for the Zoom call. It just made my life so much easier. And so not only did I benefit from the class and the coursework and the information, but also because everything was pretty much handed to me on a silver platter. The other plus of doing this online course was that the critique with Linda was included. And I cannot even tell you, to receive actual feedback from a professional in the field is truly amazing. It will alter your writing tremendously. I do belong to a critique group that I joined about a year ago, and our feedback is wonderful. But to hear it from someone who's in the trenches, who is looking at queries, who is a writer herself, really allows you to magnify where you can improve or what you need to improve on. Because I really thought my story, yeah, it's pretty good. But the detail to which she could see things that I could not was really amazing. So that was my experience with choosing the online one. If I ever get a scholarship again, I'm going for the in-person retreat or something like that, because I did find mine very valuable. Since that class, I will tell you, I took another one somewhere else, and I was not able to manage the coursework as well as I was at the Highlights Foundation class, because you all kept me on track. So I will be forever grateful. It was a wonderful experience, and I would highly recommend for those folks who are considering to apply for the scholarship to do it. You're right, it does take some time and some thought, but it is so well worth it. Even if you are awarded, it's 100% worth it. Even if you're not awarded a scholarship, the process of answering those questions really allows you to dig deeper into why you're writing, what you have to offer in terms of your writing, and it reinforces that belief that your words need to be heard just as much as anyone else's.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Shuba, that's wonderful. I love the one of the questions that's on the application that I know reviewers, we have a scholarship review committee, and your scholarship goes through multiple rounds. And so multiple people have the opportunity to review and look at your submissions. And one of the questions is about, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to write for children? And that is a question all along your journey that you're going to get again and again and again. And that might change, or that core might really stay the same. That might be a part of who you are. I love the thought of that you spent time on the application in just that way. Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely. And you also brought up a great point. I definitely want to point out that some, Cami was talking about in-person programs. Shuba was talking about online programs. Some of our programs come with consultations or critiques that are a part of the programs themselves. If you receive a scholarship, absolutely, you will have the consultation or the critique, whatever those optional pieces are that go with a project or a program, you would definitely have them included. with your scholarship. So thank you. I'm sure Linda is somewhere and just glowing because you were talking about the class, and Delia too. Big shout out to our monitors that are a part of our online community. They select courses and are really a part of the community. They stay with you throughout the entire study in the program and send those reminders. And as we get to know the classes, I monitor a few classes as well. And as we get to know our classes, you know, the notes change a little bit and we send all sorts of other things. So it's lovely. It's lovely community building. Thank you very much. I think so. We'll keep kind of moving through. We have here an opportunity to talk about those online and in-person scholarships. We try and be very flexible with those scholarships. So let's say Cami had applied for an in-person retreat, and for some reason something happened and needed to move into an online program because it better suit their needs for the year. We're investing in you, the storyteller, so we want to try and be as flexible as possible. Some of the courses, there's such a price difference in the courses that we might have to charge a difference in price or something like that. But for the most part, we try and be as flexible and accommodating as we can be between those in-person and online opportunities. I will say that we have a workshop that was just added last year to our scholarship drive. And as a matter of fact, last year, we didn't even have a scholarship recipient on the panel because we didn't have someone to come and speak about the experience in applying for a whole novel scholarship and then coming to one of our whole novel retreats. But that is not the case this year. We have Karol Ruth Silverstein with us this time. And Karol attended. We have the opportunity for your whole novel scholarship to cover either an online whole novel or one of the whole novels at our retreat center. So Karol, along with 6 other novelists last year, was one of the people that's awarded the whole novel. The whole novel is a very special program at the Highlights Foundation. It is one of our only application-based programs overall. So in general, you have to apply to get into the whole novel. And in this case, you're also applying for a scholarship for the whole novel. So you did both of those, areas. And I won't, this isn't, I do want to hear totally about your experience, but just for everyone out there, Karol brought 2 stories to whole novel last year. One that was worked on that I need to know the status of, and another that Karol shared during open mic night that I absolutely positively need to know where it is. So we're excited to hear about why you chose to apply for the whole novel, how your experience was there, and you can go ahead and give us an update on those novels.
Yeah, I can give you an update. What you might not know, Alison, is I actually wanted to apply in 2022. And I've heard about Highlights for many years. I'm very active in SCBWI out here. And I've had so many friends rave about the retreat center and how wonderful it is. And they do personal retreats and everything. And so I was aware of Highlights, and I think I had taken 1 or 2 online courses. And so in 22, I was like, oh, let me look into applying for a scholarship. And it was somewhere halfway in the window. And I looked and I was like, wow, these questions are no joke. And I will reiterate what other people said, like they are really deep and probing questions. And I was one of those nerds that wanted to write little masterpiece answers to each of the questions. So what I did was I copied the questions and pasted it into a Word document. And I was working on them, and then the window closed. And I was like, I missed it. I was like, dang it. So I saved the file. And then I'd since gotten on the email list and stuff. So I knew right away when it opened again last year. And then it was like, all right, I saved that file. Where did I put it? I was able to find it, which was good. And then I was, going through answering some of the questions and really trying to decide what which class to apply for. And I have a disability, I have a mobility impairment, and it's really hard for me to travel. I'm always a little anxious if I'm alone at like a retreat center. It was really, and after 3 years of the pandemic, I had some hesitation, but I did see that it was a few hours outside of Philadelphia, and I'm from Philadelphia originally. My mom and sister still live there. So I thought, well, I could fly into Philly and my sister would drive me out and I could manage it physically that way. But I was still a little trepidatious and I still didn't know, should I apply for the whole novel? And I think what pushed me over, first of all, I just like to do things that scare me and figure it out in the moment. But I also was working on a middle grade adventure called Freya the Mighty. And I was working on the second draft. And so I was really in the perfect position to take a whole novel workshop because I had finished, this was going to be the second draft that I was submitting. And I really needed that holistic feedback, and the idea of having a dedicated faculty reader who reads your entire novel instead of like 10 pages or 20 pages can really help you with the plotting and the themes and the voice. It was really an appropriate time for me to take a whole novel workshop. So I went through the questions, and then there's like all these additional questions if you click on, I want to apply for a whole novel. And I really took a lot of thought, and like's been said, they are making an investment in you. So they really want to know who you are as a writer, who you are as an author, or want to be as an author, why are you writing for kids? And then I guess with the whole novel, it's like, what are the themes you're exploring? Why are these important to you? Like, what do you hope your readers to get out of this? Really probing and thought-provoking. And, even if I hadn't gotten the scholarship, it really helped me to explore my own novel. So it's a great process. And then I was awarded the scholarship because I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I can handle this, but I'll apply and leave it up to the universe. And the universe was like, yep, we think you can handle it. So then, I got all these emails from Highlight saying, you've identified as disabled. How can we help you? Is there any way we can accommodate you? And I was asking questions back and forth. They do have ADA rooms. And it gets the retreat center gets pretty high marks for accessibility in terms of a mobility disability. I can't really speak to other types of disabilities. And there were just like a couple things that could be improved upon. And I chatted with George about them. And literally before I even left, he was already like having a contractor over to look at stuff. So they're very, very responsive. And they really, sorry, I'm talking really fast. Sorry. They really want to, make it an experience that everyone can have. So they were asking me questions. How can we accommodate you? And, I said sort of offhandedly, I'm good at asking for help, but, the thing that would really eliminate anxiety for me would be if my sister could come and stay with me. And I just said, I know it's a lot to ask. And they just immediately wrote back and said, we'd be happy to have your sister come and stay with you. And I once I went through the experience, I could have managed it. But the level of anxiety being alone in the room, and if I fall or if I drop something, or the cell service is a little spotty. I had none. Some people have service. It would have been like so much of my brain would have been spent on mitigating my anxiety. And that portion of my attention could not have been on the class itself. So that was amazing. And it really made me feel comfortable, taken care of, and fully present for the course. And the course itself was fantastic. We had the brain trust, which you'll hear more about if you apply for the whole novel. And it's basically, rather than like a critique group where people read your pages and say, this is your strengths and weaknesses, and this is what I like, and this is where I think you need work, you get the floor, and it's sort of like a brainstorming development meeting where you ask the questions and you ask specific things. So it's really quite different, even though it sort of sounds the same. That was really helpful. And I had this journey where my agent had read the first draft. She had a particular issue with the approach I was taking. And then I had Erin Entrada Kelly as my faculty reader mentor person. And I was like, please don't have the same issue. Please don't have the same issue. And she had the same issue. I was like, oh man. And then I got to work with her. I wanted to find a happy medium because I didn't want to let go of that thing that was really important to me. And because I was there for 5 days and because we had writing time, I thought of a happy medium, and I actually got to write out a few scenes using that alternate, slightly altered approach and read them to Erin, and then we got to discuss them. And it really, I had that breakthrough of how I could honor my original vision, but sort of get away from this issue that she had, and my agent has to love the book because she can't sell it if she doesn't love the book. And so that was, I was like a roller coaster, and I did have that breakthrough. And because I was there in person and had time to write, it wasn't just like, oh, I thought maybe I'd try this. And Erin saying, yeah, you should try that, see how it works. It was like, I thought I should try this. And here's what I did. Do you think this is working better? And she was able to say, yeah, it is, you're close, but how about if you do this one other, thing to hit it home? And I was like, yes. And so it was really it was really great fun. And it was really, really helpful. And where the book is that I do have another, like the third draft utilizing this slightly new approach. It is with my agent, and I am, hoping against hope that it really moves it into, if it's not all the way there, but she's like, yes, this is working. I can see this vision now. So we have our fingers crossed on that. And the other book I wrote, I'm writing, which is my attempt at novel in verse. I had to put it on the back burner to work on Freya. And I am now getting back into that. And I'm thinking of taking that novel in verse strong start course, which is, again, it's the perfect thing for me because I have about 100 pages of that novel in verse, but it's all over the place. And it's called The Crushing Weight of Ugly, and it is exploring this sort of pressure to be physically attractive and the privilege of that, and how teens that don't feel like they're in that camp can find a way to just be their best selves and sort of set aside that pressure, and that to learn that maybe that's not as important as everyone makes it out to be, which is a subject dear to my heart. So I think I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. And thank you for the update on the novels as well. I adore your writing, and I'm really excited to have more stories in the world.
Yes,
that's right. And also Erin, hopefully if Erin's out there making changes everywhere Erin goes with novels. I love that you had a breakthrough at the class. Thank you very much. Yeah, the whole novel, some people, I can see questions coming through specifically about the whole novel. The whole novel is a longer course online. It's one of our longest courses. It's about 10 weeks online because we're talking about your whole novel. The on-campus experience is about 6 days, but those are full days where you have a lot of time to write, and you have time either workshopping, as you're talking about in the Brain Trust, or talking with your reader, or talking within community as well. So yeah,
and there are
some of our longer
classes
programs.
Before you have a couple Zooms before the retreat itself.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Karol, very much. So we're going to talk about just 2 more programs because we want to make sure that we touch on all of the types of applications that you can send in. Our next type of program is another one that was new to scholarships. This was recently awarded, and this to me is like, it's so needed. And I hope that everyone in their creative journey has an opportunity to gift themselves or to work with us for support to have something like this. Elyse, you were here with us on a personal retreat. And for people who don't know, a personal retreat really is time for you to work and whatever work means for you. Some people have talked about coming on their personal retreat, being fed and spending time resting and thinking about story, while others have talked about coming to a personal retreat and being on deadline and finishing a project. It really is kind of a choose your own adventure. What made you apply for that type of scholarship, and how was your experience when you were on campus?
Well, I will reiterate that the personal retreat is really an opportunity to get what you need out of it. And I can talk about two different, I've been on two different personal retreats, so I can kind of talk about my experiences with both of those. But first, I applied for a personal retreat scholarship because I've been a caregiver and stay-at-home mom and work-at-home mom for 18 and a half years. And I've got two special needs kids. They're now 16 and 18. And for the last 8 years, we've been homeschooling. And so they take a lot of my time and energy. And I have a spouse who works at home as well, and some neurotic pets who always need attention. And so just managing all of that doesn't always leave me a lot of time in my own head, right? And so that's why I decided to apply for a personal retreat scholarship. You know, when you go to that scholarship application page, there are all sorts of check marks for all these different types of scholarships, and you have to kind of go read through them and see, you know, which ones you might most be, you know, have an affinity to. I happened to get the Kid-Led Pride Scholarship, which is for LGBTQIA2S plus, etc. creators. And I'm sure that my story about, you know, homeschooling my special needs kids and needing time in my own head probably helped, you know, me along for the folks to think maybe I really kind of needed some time to myself. But the first personal retreat I went on, I had my first experience with highlights in 2021. Everything was online, and that spring I took a course online called Craft Community and Your Career, which was fabulous. It was a semester-long course, and you got all kinds of things out of it. But in particular, I went there for community, and I got it. And at the end of that, several of us decided to take parallel personal retreats, and so we all, you know, descended on campus at the same time. And so it was very much kind of a group retreat, but not really. And everybody was able to do whatever they needed to do. As an aside, or maybe not an aside, by the end of that, 3 other writers and I had formed a writing group. We live in 4 different states, but they've become 3 of my closest friends over the last few years. And we stay in touch daily. We support each other in life and not just in writing. And I find Highlights is a place where you're always, everyone I've ever met at Highlights has been kind and has been fascinating if you spend the time to talk to them and find out who they are and what they're working on. So that first personal retreat, there were a lot of people around. There were other people there as well outside of our group that might have been in small groups of their own, having personal retreats together. What you're gonna find always at a Highlights personal retreat is wonderful food. Talking about accommodations, Carol, I have a lot of food sensitivities, and the chefs at Highlights are always more than happy to meet, you know, my culinary, you know, my food needs, my dietary needs, and bring me a special plate that has just what I need on it, which is amazing to be fed, you know, 3 times a day. When I was there with a whole lot of people, we often had like s'mores at the fireplace at night. We might go for walks together, but then everybody would split off and maybe go do their own writing or meditation or whatever it was. And that was a lovely experience. When I went back this past fall on my scholarship, I arrived on Labor Day when literally everyone deserted campus. And it was like a ghost town. There was a chef, there was a housekeeper. I saw George a couple of times and had, a couple of meals with him. But otherwise, it was me and like 2 other people on campus. And in fact, I was the only Kidlit creator on campus. There were a couple other people staying there who were also writers, but who had discovered highlights in other ways and were writing in other forms, other genres. And so in that sense, there was no arm wrestling with anybody over your favorite place to write, because you could go and write anywhere you wanted. But it was an extremely different experience. There wasn't necessarily, happy hour and appetizers before dinner. There was like the chef had gone home and your food is in the cooler and you can warm it up in the microwave, which after the first night, we figured that out. And, and we had a good time, and we made sure to meet for meals, those of us who were there, so we could have some, human interaction. It was very quiet. If you hear a little bit of thumping in the background, by the way, that would be my 16-year-old upstairs jumping, taking care of his sensory needs. So I've had very different experiences with personal retreats, but the point of the personal retreat is to get what you need. And maybe you need to go and just be quiet by yourself. Maybe you need to go spend time at the river and go for a hike. Maybe you need to meet a deadline, or you've got all these ideas jammed up and you just need time to let them out. And so that's really, to me, the point of the personal retreat is for you to get what you need from it. And so my first personal retreat, I got 0 writing done. It was the first time I had been away from like my spouse and kids by myself in 18 years, probably. No, it's been 18 years now. It was probably like 15 years at the time. It was probably 10 years since I'd been away from my kids at all, because I was the primary caregiver and had a spouse who traveled a lot for work. And so I just had to like decompress and fall apart that week and get to know other writers and, really bring some lovely more new people into my community. And when I went back last year, I had a little bit of an agenda, and I did get some scenes written that I had been resisting writing. And so that was really useful too. I just had quiet to do that and some solitude to do that. So I think if getting some time away to yourself is something that would be useful to you, whether it's for writing or whether it's just to get away and be with magnificent people or just to be in a beautiful, quiet place, then, and I'm sorry, Cynthia, if I'm talking too fast, I get nervous. But yeah, personal retreat for me has been a great experience, and I highly recommend.
I love that. Thank you very much. A previous iteration of the personal retreat was once called the Unworkshop, and you can kind of think why, because it is a chance to undo or do whatever you feel is right, whatever you're called to do while you're on campus. So thank you very much. We've gone over, I am seeing in the chat and in the Q&A a lot of people saying, wow, there are so many scholarship types that you can apply for, and that is true. So deciding, that's why in the steps of going through the application process, we are asking you to kind of think about what your needs are as a creative right now, and to select the type of scholarship that would be the best match for you. And with the ones that we've gone over so far, in-person programs, online courses, whole novels, personal retreats, will award over 50 scholarships just in those programs alone. And then this year, we also have the opportunity to add on a special scholarship that has been supported through the Hawthornden Foundation, which is part of our in-community retreats. While we've had in-community retreats we have not had the level of financial support that we have this year to invest in scholarships for our in-community retreats. And I am going to just ask if Alex and Molly and Emily would come on with me just for a quick talk, since we haven't had in-community retreats as part of our scholarship window previously. Thought it would be fun just to do a really quick line or two and talk about what is an in-community retreat and what does that experience feel like, so that if people are interested in applying for a scholarship for an in-community retreat, they might get excited by what you share. Alex, do you want to kick things off? What is an in-community retreat, and what do we have coming for us in 2024?
Okay, the problem is you said quick, and I'm not great at quick, but I will do my best. So yeah, the in-community retreats are just, they really have a special place in my heart because, and I did answer a question that somebody had put in a Q&A, what's the difference between an in-person retreat and an in-community retreat? And really, an in-community retreat is an in-person retreat. The difference being that it is a place where people who belong to the same community, comunidad, affinity group can come together, be on campus, and really be themselves and sort of have that experience when they're with people who are similar to them and have some of the same publishing or writing or mentorship challenges. So for example, even before I started working at the Highlights Foundation, we talked to Alison, myself, and other Latinx creators and said, can we please, pretty please, bring a Latinx Voices retreat to campus? And she said, absolutely. And there's a long list of in-community retreats that we think are absolutely crucial and are part of our Essential Conversations program. And again, they're in community, they are retreats, so they're not necessarily heavily focused on craft, but there's often some craft element, but it's really so that you can meet with people who will understand the kinds of stories that you are trying to tell. So very quickly, I'm going to just mention some of them very quickly. That's a lie. I'll go as quick as I can. Some of the upcoming in-community retreats that we have: Writing Through Trauma to Empower Readers is coming up soon. Asian and Asian American Voices, the Jewish Symposium, Black Voices Retreat, Neurodiverse Writers and Illustrators, which is new this year, very excited about that, Native Creatives, Latinx Voices, and Rainbow Retreat. And Molly and Emily and I have all been hosts and participants in these in-community retreats. So can I invite you all to talk a little bit about what that experience was like? Molly, do you want to talk a little bit about Asian and Asian American Retreat?
Yeah, thank you for bringing me in. And I think that most of the people will probably recognize my name. I am everywhere.
You're famous.
I'm not famous, but I'm everywhere if you ever sign up any workshop from our organizations. And I'm happy to be here with you all because I do have the honor to be in the first ever in community retreat, Asian American Voices, from 3 years ago. And now I'm still here. And the best part about being in community retreat is you are gathering with people who look like you, who share similar anxiety, who share the love of food and the passion together during the fireside chat, the meal time, and see everyone work hard. All the inspiration and motivation are the best. And it was the most meaningful and community building moments when we host those in community retreat. And that's how the difference in for the real workshop or personal retreat, because this is in community, we are all the similar background people who are enjoying the moment when we took over the whole campus.
That's amazing. Emily, what about you?
I was at the Rainbow Retreat, and I've also been to the Jewish Symposium in the past. And as Molly said, it's just really nice to sometimes be able to talk with kid-led creators who are coming from that same background. There's certain things, you just don't have to explain to people sometimes that you do in other instances. For me, it was especially nice at the Rainbow Retreat. I got to meet some of my critique group partners for the first time in person, which was especially lovely. And in addition, it gave me a great time to relax and unwind as much as I got work done. It felt very relaxing to do so because it was such a chill environment. It was one where we were just happy to sort of be talking with each other and so encouraging of each other's work. We even got together and we talked, the industry, business, that kind of stuff, things that people might not know because we had all come from different stages in our careers. Not that really kept us apart. It wasn't dividing in any way. It was actually, we were able to come together even more as a community because of that and bring in even so many different perspectives, despite it just being, in community, we all have the one specific background together, but there was so much more knowledge that everyone had from various other aspects. For me, it was especially helpful. I was working on one project and then I came there and realized that was not the project I was most passionate about. And it turned out to be the one that my agent was even more excited about when I went to her with this other one. So for me, it was just an exceptional thing. And I just was able to, and I still stay in touch with those people. We have a fun little Discord. We talk to each other and everything. So it was a wonderful time.
That was one of the things I was going to mention about it sort of says it in the name, in community, and you come to these in community retreats and you are building community that you take with you. So you've made these connections that are really for the long term. And also there's a lovely thing, I'm sure, I know it happened at Rainbow because you and I were at Rainbow together and it happens at a lot of other places, but because of those different levels of experience and knowledge, we had community members do impromptu knowledge shares where they would just say, hey, I'm published and I have some experience of this. Let me just talk to everybody about my experience. So you really are sharing different levels of experience, different levels of knowledge in publishing and in creating. And it's just really lovely. So thank you both for sharing your thoughts on this.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. This is like part of before we launched the Zoom tonight, I was talking about my time optimism. I want to listen to storytellers talk about their experiences. And I'm noticing now that in my time optimism, we've run over our time here. But what I'd like to do is remind everyone that this is recorded. We'll try and finish up by 8:20, which will give us an opportunity to hear from George. It'll give us an opportunity to answer some questions. And then anyone who does need to jump off, you'll have an opportunity to listen to the rest of the recording. So thank you for your patience. Thank you all for sharing your experiences. I think it's exciting. Maybe we do need to budget more time for the scholarship gather every year because we continue to add more scholarships to the scholarship gather. And therefore, of course, the panel is getting larger. There's more seats at the table when it comes to the scholarship. There's more offerings that we have. But George, we can certainly not have a scholarship gather without hearing from you. So Alex and I are going to take a peek in the Q&A and we're going to turn things over to you.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is George Brown. I am the Executive Director at the Highlights Foundation, and I am coming to you here in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, the traditional lands of the Lenape, not far from our retreat center. Thank you, Cami and Shuba and Karol and Elyse for sharing your stories. Like Alison, it's awesome just to listen and hear your stories and your experiences. I come about the Highlights Foundation as having grown up as a highlights kid and always wanting to be a part of highlights. And I think of tonight as like our big night of the year, right? So I know many of you may have seen the ALA Awards on Monday morning. That was a fun, big event for us to be watching the book awards being announced, and thinking about what it means to us for scholarships. It's really an amazing community, and this brings together our donors who have been inspired, have been touched. Many of our donors have been teachers, students, a part of the Highlights Foundation, and they've been influenced enough, impacted by the Highlights Foundation work to want to pay it forward and support our scholarship program, which is greater than ever this year to see over 90 scholarships being provided. So thank you. It's cool. I see some of our donors are on the call. I see, Cammie, you talked about being an aspiring writer, and I think that's on the application. We make sure we have a spot where you can talk about whether you're aspiring or whether you're emerging or whether you're published, because no matter where you are on that creative journey, when you're thinking about your storytelling for children, we want to be there with you and be a part of that journey. So I hope you'll find that in the application and take a look at that piece. We've been at this for more than 35 years now, and it all started way back in the early days of the Highlights Foundation when a student attended one of our early Chautauqua Writers workshops, and they were so moved by the experience, they put forth money so that somebody could come next year on a scholarship. And here we are building year after year, and this is our biggest and best year for providing scholarships. So we're thrilled. I hope you'll all apply, do reach out and ask us questions, and we look forward to getting to know you more throughout the year. Allison and Alex, are you ready to open up the Q&A box?
Maybe.
It's one of those things, where you're typing, and I was so glad that I wasn't on screen because I know the faces I was probably making as I was trying to answer questions quickly in there.
You might have to
lovely,
do
George.
little Instagram shorts or something as you go through all of this.
So one of the links that I do want to put in to the chat, and I know that a number of people have mentioned, will we get copies of all of these links? Bobby Combs, who is in the chat right now, does such an amazing job pulling together our gathers and writing a summary blog that has all of the links that we mention. Bobby Combs is magical. So yes, you'll have all of the links, but everything really, our website is user friendly in that there is a tab at the top that says scholarships. And if you go there, you'll be able to have this information. Many people are asking in the Q&A, Alex, about specific named scholarships. They want to know more about the named scholarships. So I'm putting a link to everyone in the chat that goes directly to the page that has each of our named scholarships. We have general scholarship funds, and then we have scholarships that are in honor of or named by a donor, that some of them feed into general scholarship and some of them are very affinity related or identity related or based on the type of story that you're trying to tell. And so you do want to review those types of scholarships when you go to apply. So I think that'll answer.
That link is great because it actually has the name.
Yeah.
It also has a description of what those are. So you'll be able to find all of the information on them as well.
And there was a little confusion in the chat about you can only apply one time, meaning you can only fill out one application, but there's a spot on the application that says, which scholarships would you like to be considered for? And that's a multi-select. So you could choose all 45 special scholarships to be considered for in your one application.
So a couple of other questions that I thought would be great to answer now. If there are some that we don't get to, I can meet with Bobby and we can make sure that we get some answers to them to go into the blog post. A big one that people are asking about has to do with travel. It's in the chat and it's in the Q&A feature. Do in-person scholarships include travel? Who would like to take this one?
George.
Or I'm happy. Oh, George.
So we can't, we have 10 travel stipends available this year. And it's not like each one has a travel stipend. So we're really just kind of asking on the application, what is your level of need for travel? And hopefully we'll be able to pair that up as best as we can. And it's a challenging question, really. It's like, if you put more into travel, you have less for scholarships. So we're really trying to figure out what the right balance is, because we do want to be able to have as many people come as we can, but we understand travel can be a barrier. And there are a couple of scholarships specifically in the description, and I'm sorry I don't have that list right now, but they do say that there's a travel stipend included in those. But there's a question that says, if you receive a scholarship, are you able to travel? And you can choose, yes, I can do that. Maybe I could make it work, or no, I would really need the travel stipend to be able to make that work. And so that helps our review committee try to make that decision.
Allison, there's another
Thanks,
question.
George.
Yeah, thank you, George. There's another question that I see kind of popping up in different ways in the Q&A about how financial need is determined. Were we on the same wavelength with that one?
I was same one. And I've also received some personal questions about this as well. Questions come through in all different ways. This is definitely part of the criteria. When you go on to look at our scholarship application, you'll see that there's 3 areas of criteria. One of them is seriousness of purpose. One of them is talent or promise, and one of them is financial need. And what we really advise you to do is state what you need to state in the financial need part of the application itself, but know that for most of our review committee, they're really looking at your narratives. They're really looking at your sample, what you've submitted that shows talent or promise. And they're really looking at your seriousness of purpose. And seriousness of purpose is kind of a catch-all term, but it shows that you're really putting in time, effort, and you have a passion specifically for creating stories for kids and teens. And I mentioned that talent piece, and I use the word promise an awful lot. One of the things that I pointed out was saying where you are on your journey. And, if you say you're an aspiring writer and you don't have a published, a final draft attached to your sample, that makes sense. That talent is also looking at the promise. If you were to come to summer camp in illustration, would that type of program help move your story along and support you? Because it's about supporting the creative.
That's great.
All right. Was there another one that stuck out to you? It sounds like we were on the same page with that one.
The short answer to the one of which ALA winner is a Highlights alum is literally too many to mention, which is so fun for us. A couple of people asked about what qualifies being an educator, and does a librarian qualify to be an educator? Does a literacy specialist qualify to be an educator? And I think the answer to that is yes.
I would say apply. Please apply.
For sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Apply. And again, somebody is in and asking about those levels: aspiring, emerging, established. The definitions are laid out in the application itself. So there's a definition there. you are providing a large narrative. So part of that is you're selecting it, but you're also giving us the background of where you are. One of the big things that we see here at the Highlights Foundation, and even in some of the stories that people were sharing, Cami has a background in storytelling, but would probably have picked aspiring when it came to children's books, because moving into the realm of children's books, maybe they're just starting out. And so some people will come to us, they have a background in journalism, but a background in journalism might not be the same as writing your first novel in verse, but you're going to tell us about your background in journalism and your narrative, and you're probably going to select aspiring and then explain why that would be in children's books themselves.
Let's see. I think
All
that's-
right, I
know there's a lot.
I
Still.
feel pretty good about, there's so many, and I think what we'll do is Bobby's on. Bobby will download these and we'll take a look at them and get some good answers there. But I want to be respectful of time in that case. There was one additional question that came in the previous, somebody who couldn't be here tonight, but they sent in their question ahead of time. And it was about if they're really interested in a workshop and they're afraid that there isn't going to be enough space.
Mhm.
Should they reserve their space in that workshop in hopes that they get a scholarship? Is that a George, you want to take that one?
Sorry, I stole his thunder. I'm so sorry.
No,
Alex,
he says go
go
for it.
for it.
I was going to say yes, apply. Yes, apply. And if you get the scholarship, then we can work out the reimbursement if we're any deposit you've put down or anything like that. But I think that if you're interested and you're concerned that it may fill up and that you might not have time, definitely register for it, but also apply for the scholarship.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. I think main takeaways, please apply and please
Yes.
reach out with questions. On every page that you will encounter throughout the entire scholarship process, there is a link that takes you to our scholarship email address, so that if you need to get to someone to get you a response, you can do that. We have learned a little bit along the way. The last day to apply is January 31st, and we made that in the middle of the week because in the past we haven't. And then at midnight, we're getting a flood of emails on a Saturday evening that are asking about applications. So now we'll be here. It's the middle of the week. We're happy to answer those questions up to the last moment and make sure that you can get your scholarship applications in. We want to see the stories that you're working on. We want to support you along the way. So I want to echo George's thanks to our supporters. As you click through all the different types of scholarships, you'll see the amazing people who are helping us to bring these scholarships to you. We are also so grateful to our review committee, which is made up of children's book authors, illustrators, agents, editors, caregivers, people who have been involved with the Highlights Foundation for decades and people who have been involved with the Highlights Foundation for less, but people who really care about reading through your scholarship applications. I too started my journey at the Highlights Foundation via a scholarship application, and they got to know me, and now they probably know too much about me. So there's that part
There's
also.
no such thing.
Of course, I'm grateful to our whole Highlights Foundation team who makes events like tonight possible, and the entire scholarship process possible. A huge shout out, though, to the very caring person who started us on this generous path, Kent Brown. He was the founder of the Highlights Foundation. He had a vision for supporting children's book creatives like no other, and he laid the groundwork for what our scholarship program has become today. So thank you, Kent. Thanks to everyone on our screen, everyone who shared their experiences, and more than anything, thank you to the people who turned out tonight or who will watch the recording. We hope that you find a way to apply. to spread the word for us, to provide support. We need more great stories for kids. We need more great stories to grow great humans in this world. Our scholarship window closes on January 31st. Get those applications in.
11:59 p.m. Eastern time.
That's right. Until next time, stay safe, seek peace, and good night.